Let me ask you a little bit more about that, because you have an awful lot of Twitter followers.
Couple million.
It's a couple million?
Yeah.
I was thinking it was a million.
Oh, I've
it's
cracked
more.
that, honey.
Oh, okay. so
Last night I checked, it was over 2 million.
It's okay, over 2 million. What do you get from them? I mean, how have you learned from having these kinds of folks that you didn't have in the past?
Yeah, you know what it is? To me, Twitter it blocks. In my business, when you have like a person, talent or celebrity or whatever you want to call it, there are a lot of barriers to get to that person, to get to the consumer, sometimes to get to the press, to be heard, as well as the other way around. There may be, people that want to ask me something or connect to me, and there's all of these layers, these produced layers, and it's this big buffer. With Twitter, I can go straight to the consumer, from asking them personal advice. Should I do this or should I do that? And that's more of a selfish thing. But also them asking me, I break down my Twitter followers into two categories. I feel that the younger girl wants to be told that she's okay. Tyra, what do you think about this hair? What do you think about this? Should I do this or should I do that? Am I good enough? And then the woman probably like 28 and older wants a tip and a trick. That'd be you and me.
Older than 28.
Really?
Older than 28.
No.
And the older woman, she wants to know the tip and the trick of how to do something. And also, I use Twitter as my own focus group, even for business situations and ideas. What do you guys think about this? Should I go into this? What about this? And to me, it's almost like magic. Social networking is like magic. And before, I'm sorry.
No. But it sounds to me like both the Twitter, the social media, and SEO are basically both kind of like question. You said focus groups, but it sounds like you're actually able to use them to cut through a lot of. They're like listening devices.
It is, and you cut through every single thing. I also used to feel a little bit kind of like on an island, like very protected. Now I feel like I can totally reach my audience, and it's so intimate, very, very intimate, and that's also what attracted me to Demand, because the site that we're going to be doing together is very intimate. It's not just us creating these things and saying, okay, like it, read it, love it. It's a dialogue and a very intimate relationship with the user.
This kind of back and forth with audiences seems different. What is it going to look like in practice in the Demand Media channel? Are you going to be kind of sitting there at a desk with an eye shade, answering people's tweets? And
sometimes, yes. Yes. By the way, my tweets I'm known for wearing no makeup on all my Twitter profile pics.
Really?
Yeah. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit, because that goes into the rawness and the polished that I see this new site that we're going to do together. But as far as my business, Bankable right now, we really truly stand for merging beauty and entertainment into one. And so that doesn't mean that I'm going to be taking a departure from traditional media. That's where we have built our platform, and we're not, going away from that. But I do see our entry in a big way with Demand. I see it as extremely necessary. A lot of people in the traditional media world, a lot of my colleagues, they tend to look, even today, and I feel that it's so short-sighted and that they're not being, they're not really thinking about where the world is really going. A lot of them are very short-sighted, and they're very stuck in traditional media, whether it's radio, television, and film. I like to think of Bankable as being innovative and always on the cusp of the next thing and what really is going to become one day, the leader. For instance, America's Next Top Model was the very first reality show in the fashion industry that had a fashion theme. So we're always looking to be kind of like first in class, or at least first entry into a certain market. And I know, well, I feel that this is, I don't want to say I know, I feel that we're making an amazing decision.
Where can you imagine taking it? And you've had a pretty pioneering talk show, especially because it's focused quite a lot on empowerment of girls and young women. But again, there's a screen right
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
what can you imagine doing in this medium that you haven't been able to do in the past?
Well, empowering women, particularly young women, is extremely important to me. And I've done it in different ways on television. What I like about the relationship with demand is it's not just empowering by my team coming up with these ideas on how to empower. It is actually, with the user-generated content, with the actually writer-generated content, with the studio that Demand has, it actually empowers them to actually make the content. I have a side program called Be Your Own CEO, which is teaching young women how to be the CEO of their lives or possibly the CEO of companies. And so to me, this whole, you have the power to create as opposed to just sitting and waiting for the advice of somebody being passive is a really strong message for girls.
There's another issue here, something that we talked about a little bit before. I guess it's, can this work? Can you actually reach or touch enough people in this medium relative to what you can already do on television? I mean, this is something that all the professionals in the room have been dealing with. We've been spending the entire day talking about brand advertising and brand marketing. And look, you put a good campaign, well-done campaign on television, you can reach 10, 20, 30 million people at a pop. Here we're talking about 2 million Twitter followers. That's a lot, but it's still 2 million. What do you think? How do you compete? I'm really interested in how you take somebody of Tyra's stature and compete with the big medium, which is television, for the big brand marketing and advertising dollars. How does that work in practice?
Not everybody can afford, the big-time television ads and big-time television shows. And I think that the consumers are getting more fragmented. I mean, consumers are very different about what they want, and listening to them and understanding, hey, look, I might need to retouch my eyebrow versus get an arch in my eyebrow. I may need to, I may want to, we have a show that we just did called, a web series called Gorgeously Green that is an expert making skincare items from your organic vegetables. We didn't do that just because we woke up one day and said, let's make some mush and put it on our face. We did that because that's what people were looking for. That's what we saw through our data, is that they cared about. They wanted to have a cucumber mask and a pineapple scrub and a couple of other things. So we really try to deliver on that promise. Another series we did was Grow, Cook, Eat. It's a woman that is an organic, grows organic vegetables in her backyard in Seattle, and she actually takes them from her backyard into the kitchen and shows you how to cook them. People want to know, hey, I'm harvesting my tomatoes, what do I do with them? Like if you've grown zucchinis, they actually come out of your ears at some point, so you need to figure out how to do that. And it's not just us saying, hey, organic farming is a big trend, and that's what would happen on television, right? If you look at all of the stuff that's left on the editing floor and trying to make a television show that is 22 minutes or an hour long, whatever it happens to be, you leave a lot of what people want to see out. So we actually feel like we can take that experience a little bit further.
That's what you were saying, Tyra, about being able to kind of dive deep and show what it looks like when you get up in the morning and all that. So it's really this kind of medium is all about deep dives. That's the value. Historically, whether you're in the modeling business or certainly in the production business, film, television, magazines, you're always dealing with intermediaries. You're dealing with producers, you're dealing with writers, you're dealing with studios, you're dealing with magazine publishers. This somehow seems different. The combination of bankable and demand seems as if you're cutting out a number of middlemen here and going straight. And is that part of the appeal of this, to kind of have that kind of creative and business control?
Yeah, well, as Bankable gets into other ventures, and there's others that we don't have time to go down the whole list of all the other things that we're getting into, that is our plan, that is our business plan, that is our strategy, to have much more of a connection, much more of a control, so that our message and our voice doesn't get diluted. And so when we met with Demand and we're like, oh my gosh, this fits, that's so important. It has to be a pure voice, because in going into so many different businesses, I can't have all these different voices. It'll look like schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. And so it's one clear voice, and it feels really great that there is not a lot of politics. You know, we speak to each other. There's not a lot of, there's no fat. Cut the fat out.